Hey everyone, welcome to the Design Drawer. My name is Herman, and on the first episode of this channel, I'll be showing you a 3D print and paint of Darth Revan from Star Wars The Old Republic. I'll be showing you my resin printing process and a time lapse of my painting technique. Let's get into it. I picked up this sculpt of Darth Revan from Star Wars 3D models over on Colts 3D. They did a really good job with the pre-supports, and I really like how this model looks. For the slicing software, I'm using Box. I'm printing at a 50% scale and trying to fit as many pieces onto the build plate so I don't have to do as many prints and washes. The printer I'm using today for this build is the Elegoo Saturn 16K. To save on the cleanup process, I'm using a 3D printed adapter bracket so that the excess resin on the build plate will drip back into the tank. Next, I take the build plate with the parts still attached to do the rinse in IPA. I do this to minimize the amount of resin splatter and so that I don't have to clean up as much. Some useful tools to have are a plastic tray and a pair of tongs. This is so that you don't have to touch the resin directly or the contaminated alcohol, even if you are wearing gloves. After letting the alcohol dry, I use a small heat pen. I find that softening the supports helps remove it and it just peels away from the print. I like to remove the supports at this stage because after the post-cure, the supports become very brittle and hard to remove. I'm still a beginner with the airbrush, but I started with the solid coat of Vallejo Gray Primer. I try to avoid priming the connection points. Bare resin to resin creates a stronger bond when gluing later. In order to hide some of the seams, I use some wood filler that I mix with a couple drops of water just so I could use a paintbrush to paint it into the seams to make them invisible. It really helps to make split parts look like one solid piece. For the base coat, I'm using some black acrylic craft paint that I thin with some Vallejo airbrush thinner and some water. I'm really learning that it's a lot of trial and error with airbrushing. The first layer went on a little too wet. With the airbrush work done, it was time to pick up the paintbrushes. I like using small brushes to get the fine details and to really capture all the textures that are in the 3D model. Make sure when using a paintbrush to always thin down your paints so that way the paint doesn't pool and hide some of the details or create like an uneven texture. Using the brush allows me to have control over the really tiny details such as the armor trim and all of the little chains and buckles on the armor. I wanted the lightsaber blades to be translucent, so I used Bambulab's Translucent PLA. Unfortunately, printing it in vertical made the ends come out to be a goopy mess. To fix this, I lowered the layer height and printed the lightsaber horizontally, which seemed to come out with a good result. You may notice that I've kept the model separated. This is so that I could paint the hard to reach areas as well as being able to work section by section, so I could put down one part and work on another as the other one dries. For the base, I really like the color scheme of black, platinum, and bronze. Having the base coat of black also really helps the metallics pop out. The model also includes some wreckage of a probe droid and some mechanical parts. I painted these in steel gray to give it a weathered look. And for the rocks, I did some dry brushing to give it some texture. Now all that's left to do is the final glue up, and with that, Darth Revan is finished. Overall, I'm really happy with how Darth Revan came out. I think the translucent effect on the lightsabers turned out to look really good. If you have any suggestions or advice on any 3D printing or painting techniques, let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far and enjoyed the video, consider dropping a like and subscribing to my channel. It would really help a lot. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye now.